but we've been helping people move since 2013. It's not just moving possessions, it's moving people's lives. You get completely free storage for 3 months and then 25% discount after that. The contents of our vehicles are insured for £100,000. We do the whole transfer of residency process with HMRC within our customs process as well.
Hello, my name's Liz Rowlinson from Place in the Sun, and I'm here with Paul Burt from Indolo Transport. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Liz. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm really, really well, thank you.
So, this webinar is Stress-Free Moves to Spain, how to make European removals easy. Now, sadly, we know that they're not quite as easy as they used to be. So we're here to try and cover lots of useful points if you're planning a move abroad. First up, I'd like to welcome you. Hope this is going to be useful. And Paul, can you just tell us a bit about the company, what you do, how you do it?
What we do and how we do it. Okay, well, first off, we are Indalo Transport and Indalo Removals and Storage. There's two separate companies here. Indalo Transport is a limited company in the UK. Indalo Removals and Storage SL is a limited company in Spain. The two exist because of Brexit, basically. So we've got a foot in each camp, so we can clearly abide by the laws in each country. It's not just Spain; it's the EU. We've been operating since 2013. The current format obviously came about as a result of Brexit, but we've been helping people move since 2013. The stress-free bit it sounds a bit twee, but it is really what we try to do. We try and take the stress out of everything, and we do it because we're service-driven. Simple as that, basically.
Yeah, I've actually interviewed quite a few happy movers from you for different blogs and editorials. So I know
Must have been my family then.
or neighbors or whatever. Yeah. So, but it's interesting because people come to the property exhibitions we do at Place in the Sun and sort of finding their removals company you think is right at the end of the line, but actually it's from the beginning. They feel reassured to meet you face to face, to have that first chat because they're going to trust you with their worldly possessions. So it's an important thing.
Well, it is because uh, again, to use something that we remind ourselves of frequently, it's not just moving possessions; it's moving people's lives, and we have to be mindful of that all the time because moving country is a huge thing. It takes a lot of thought and a lot of planning, and the same goes into actually moving people's goods. When we're at the show, it's quite funny because I know you guys sit up on stage and you'll talk about tax, you'll talk about the legalities and visas and everything else, and people come away from there with their heads filled, and then all of a sudden they see Indalo Transport Removals, and they finally twig we're going to need that as well. So people do come to us and say we hadn't even considered it, and that can be a problem at times. People don't consider the physical moving until right at the very end. I've had somebody talk to me this morning. Um, they were over the moon. They've got their visas. The visas have come through this morning, and now it's a case of what next? Oh, we need to move, and they want to move next week.
Yeah. Yeah, just like visas, we've come to slightly understand those, but actually the whole Brexit move is another element and people's heads are spinning, as you say. And it really makes a difference that um you have an English and a Spanish base, doesn't it? Because also a lot of people I speak to, there's storage involved as well.
Yeah.
Coordinating the timing of a move to the between the two countries is another whole aspect.
Absolutely, and our guys here speak Spanish, which can be really, really useful if you're trying to reverse an 18-ton truck up through a small village. You need to speak to the authorities, you'll need to speak to neighbours as well. So simple things like that is a big plus for us being in Spain as well. The guys in the UK share exactly the same values as we do when it gets down to how to treat customers, treating their belongings and everything else. But having Indalo storage and Indalo transport, one in each country, it certainly works. It works very, very well.
And Indalo, the Indalo standard it's a funny little man. What's that? What's the name?
Funny little man. Well, that's our take on the Indalo. The Indalo, it's actually a totem. It's a symbol of good luck, if you
Mm.
like. Wards off evil spirits. It was actually discovered as a cave painting back in, I think it was
Oh,
1400 and something or other. So it was a cave painting. It was adopted locally here in Almeria, and very 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 often you see it above doorways and windows, and people used excuse me,
sorry.
people used to put it there to ward off evil spirits, and it was adopted then as a token of good luck. More recently, since the 60s, it's become a bit of an artisan thing where a lot of local artists have used it as pieces of art, and you can buy pottery, key rings, and everything else. But the Indalo is essentially a totem of safety and warding off evil spirits, that sort of thing.
Interesting. So that safety and standards comes into it because back in the day, you used to be able to just throw your stuff in the back of a van and drive to Spain and set up a new life, not worry about visas, border controls. But people, it's not quite so straightforward. What do you think people, and that's why it's important to get professionals as well. What do people underestimate about moving to? You've talked about time frame, but what else?
People underestimate everything. And you say, the days are gone of throwing everything in the back of a van and driving across the channel. People still do that. And that's fraught with danger because since Brexit, there are customs processes to go through, there's tax declarations to do, all of which, as a professional removal company, we take care of. But we've had people rolling off of ferries in Santander being pulled to one side, customs officers going through their goods, coming up with values and taxing them and fining them. It can be quite unpleasant at times. Other times, people just drive straight through. It's a bit like, if you're on the M4 or the M1 and somebody goes past you at 120 miles an hour, they might not get stopped. But
Mm.
you do it, you might probably get stopped. So there are problems there. Time wise, time wise, we have a customs procedure to go through. Typically, we allow 15 working days for that. Now, that comes from the fact that if we're moving people to the UK, HMRC allow themselves 15 working days to process a transfer of residency application. So we've adopted the same standard across, whether it's customs going into Spain, customs going into the UK, we've adopted the same standard. So what we say is we need 3 weeks notice in able to collect and transport goods into Spain, UK, or wherever they're going. Um, the Indalo standard is something different. The Indalo standard is something that we've created. It's again, I don't want to sound too corporate because that's not really us, but the Indalo standard is a standard that we live up to, the way we act with each other within the business, with our clients, and with our partners. Just a way of working, a way of acting, but it does follow through, and it follows through in sort of way we handle people's goods as well. We have a standard of packing and handling that we live up to.
Okay, that's reassuring. So you mentioned 3 weeks there. So theoretically, it might not be ideal, but could you, if I wanted to move in 3 weeks' time, is that possible?
Yeah, yeah, it is
Right.
possible. It puts a lot of stress on us and a lot of stress on you, but yes, we can do it. We prefer 3 months, I have to say.
Hmm.
And in the process that people have to go through, this is why I was saying earlier on about, you got the visas and you got the legalities and everything else. If people look at their removal at the same time as they're looking at their visas, then we can make everything completely and utterly seamless.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's often horror struck. I think I've heard of a truck being impounded with someone trying to do it on them move themselves.
We've had several cases recently where, oddly enough, Liz, it was somebody I spoke to at an A-Pit show in Bristol. The guy wanted to come down to Almeria. We quoted him, and his words were, "I could do that myself," and he tried. And basically, what happened is he got off the ferry again at Santander, pulled to one side, um, didn't have any paperwork. So the customs have impounded his van, which he'd hired, by the way. They've impounded it. They've taken a week to go through the itinerary of what was in the van to come up with a value. So that they then fined him €3,000. They taxed him 15% on the total value of everything that was in that van. The worst
Wow.
thing about that is that he had to wait a week for them to do it, so he had to fork out for a hotel, and he was late getting the van back.
Oh
So
gosh.
the cost of that was twice as much as it would have been to move it with us.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your core pillars. Um, what are the elements that you've talked about customs clearance that you handle, but what
Okay, I mean,
about for the beginning?
okay, so the custom side of things, I touched on it earlier. Why we've got two limited companies. Um, Being limited here in Spain and in the UK means that we can conduct our own customs. We do the whole thing from start to finish. For example, we can do the tax declaration direct with the Spanish Hacienda, the tax office here in Spain. As
Hmm.
people come into the country, into Spain, we make a tax declaration based on the value of the goods that we're carrying on behalf of a client. Now,
Hmm.
that value we put down, we have a matrix of agreed values that we use. Um, if we weren't if we weren't strictly regulated here in Spain, we wouldn't be able to do that. We would then have to either ask the client to do it themselves, which would never get done, or we have to use specialist agencies, which is an added cost.
Mm.
So our, if you like, our legality helps with all of that sort of thing. So we do the full custom service from start to finish, which includes the inventory. When we collect, we need to know what's in boxes. If we're doing packing ourselves, we will know exactly what's in the box. We make a detailed inventory based on what the client tells us and what we can see ourselves, and that follows through into that income tax declaration. So that's the full service to get you into Spain, to get you into France, Portugal, wherever you're going, to do it properly. And when I say tax, it's not huge. People get this thing about I'm moving a whole household of goods. The tax bill is going to be huge. It's not. It's
Mm.
based on second-hand values.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we make that declaration and we do it properly. So the client's not going to have anybody knocking on their door in 6 months' time.
Okay. And I suppose when I've interviewed one of your happy movers before, I think they said that when they had the initial assessment of how much stuff they had, it didn't even have to be done in person. It was a video call. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, very similar to what we're doing now. I mean, you're based in London and I'm here in Almeria. Basically, what we do is we do a video call. So as long as the client has a smartphone, they can show us round. We'll record at this end, and we can see everything in the cupboards, in the wardrobes. It doesn't need to be packed because then we can work out how many boxes are required, if there's any special packing materials needed, and we can then create a full plan. This is where we could actually come back in with, we were talking about the Indalo standard. Again, with everything we do, there is a standard, and with the packing and collection, there's a standard. For example, we will always wrap mirrors, pictures, and paintings, and we wrap them in a particular way to make sure that they're looked after. We always supply packing materials for international moves, and we supply our own boxes. They're triple walled. They're very, very strong.
Hmm.
I had somebody this morning say, "Is it okay if I leave all my stuff in these plastic crates?" And I said, "Well, you can do, but we'll move them into our boxes because our boxes are better than the plastic crates." Um, and again, all of our materials they're recyclable. I know that again, I don't want to sound twee, but we use paper tape, proper paper tape that we've had designed for us. So everything we do is to a certain standard.
What are American style pads?
Okay, American style pads. You have removal blankets, which are
Yes.
thick cloth blankets. American style pads are really going on another level. They're almost like quilts. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if you imagine a quilt, it's a bit tougher than that. It's made
Mm.
of bigger material, but it is a pad. So if we were transporting somebody's sideboard, um, it would be covered in a blanket, which would be tied off and wrapped around. But then we would put a pad across the top as well, so that if anything is on top of that, there's a good inch or so between the top of
Uh,
the sideboard and the bottom of a box, let's say. So it stops
okay.
any scratching.
Brilliant. So, and then storage is, I mentioned, is an important part because so many times a house sale or a completion, you can't quite coordinate them. So you have a warehouse in Almeria, don't you, that you can store people's stuff?
We have a huge warehouse here in Almeria. We've got warehousing in Gosport as well in the
Hmm.
UK. Um, we give 3 months free storage to anybody we meet at a Place in the Sun live shows.
Okay.
Um, and that's very, very useful because if people are going for their visas, um, it's an unknown. So
Mm,
they've sold a house. They may be trying to sell later to avoid capital gains tax, but
mm.
but if they sold a house, they've now got to buy another. So that 3 months allows people that transition, even if they're coming into renting in Spain. And a lot of people do that. They don't quite know where they're going to go. So they'll come into a rented property in Spain. We'll hold their goods in storage for them, whilst they find somewhere that they want to be their forever home. Um, 3 months free storage, and you can go beyond that. We're more than happy for people to go beyond the 3 months. And if people do, then we'll give them a further 25% off of our standard storage rates.
Okay. And basically, if there's someone's moving to Spain and they're not that familiar with the roads and the access and things, can you do you research that
Yeah, yeah, we
sometimes?
do. It's one of the first things we do. I mean, if I get an inquiry here in Spain and people tell me they're moving from Crewe, if you like, down to Sota Grande, I've got the address. The first thing I would do is do a Google search on the property, check out the fact that I can get a large van near. If I know the address in Sota Grande, I'll do exactly the same thing. But at the same token, we get removal companies asking us if we can go out and look at access checks for them bringing people down. So
Mm.
it's nice that we're recognised within the industry as being able to offer that sort of service. But it's one of the most important things we do to make sure that we can actually deliver. We've got a backup plan if we can. If we can't get an 18-ton truck, and let's say it's a large removal, if we can't get an 18-ton truck through a small Spanish village, then we've got a fleet of other vehicles here that we can use.
Oh,
Even down to the fact that we got some Renault Kangoos which we've converted. We can get them through the smallest streets, so we don't have a problem with delivery.
do you do the Spanish islands as well?
What we can do,
Yeah.
yeah, we got trade partners that we use for a lot of the Spanish islands, like Mallorca, the
Mm.
Balearics, and then all the way down to Tenerife and Gran Canaria,
Okay.
that sort of thing. But yeah, yeah, we do.
Brilliant. That reminded me because insurance is very important. And I interviewed a woman last week whose container had gone off the back of a ship once. This is not your company, and it was to Australia. But making sure you've got maximum insurance is key, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the contents of our vehicles are insured for £100,000. Simple as that. So if it's one job on there, the insurance is already in place for £100,000. Um, we don't sell insurance as an add-on. We are fully insured. You are fully insured to come with us. Our goods in transit insurance, for example, would take care of a container falling off the back of the ship. So that wouldn't be an issue. the insurance is important. I mean, I'm not going to stand here and turn around and say we've never broken anything.
Mm,
I mean, we have had occasion, not often, to use our insurances, but it's there for a reason. The one I can think of is that it was a picture frame. It wasn't in the best of condition, but it was a very, very old painting, and it had one of these plaster frames which crumbled in transit. Nothing to do with the way we packed it.
mm,
It just crumbled. Our insurers were great. They paid out £3,000 for that, and we're very, very, very grateful to them. And so is our client. So you know, it's there to put things right. It's also one of the things that you should always be wary about. If you're going to do a cut price move, a man in a van sort of thing, they're not going to be able to offer comprehensive insurance. In fact, they're probably not offering any type of insurance.
mm-hmm.
Um, and there's another important point here. I'm sorry to go on about this, but if you've got somebody that's just driving a van, and they're insured. Okay, they're insured to drive the van. The minute you put some goods in the back for somebody else and you're being paid to do it, their insurance is invalid. The insurance becomes void. So
Mm.
be really, really careful. If you look at if you ask for a removal and you come across a really, really cheap price, be very careful.
Sure. I mean, um, you know, you need to pay for having this peace of mind and this professional service. And I mean, are you able to give any sort of ballpark starting prices for a move to Spain?
Wow. This is what happens every time we're at your shows, you know. People say, "Can you give me an idea? I want a Luton van to go to Gibraltar or whatever." It's really difficult, and each move is different.
Sure.
Um, it's not cheap, but it's not that expensive either. I mean, if you're looking at a typical move, I suppose I can only give you what our average move is.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. An average move, if you're looking for a normal house moving from southern England to southern Spain, you're probably looking at around £6,000 to £7,000.
Yeah, that's useful because people need to budget for everything, including the visa and the actual logistical side of the move.
Well, I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about the actual cost involved with a removal, with the visas and everything else that you need, and we both agreed that if you were to say, right, I need a budget figure of 10,000 to do that, you're not far wrong.
Yeah, I would agree with that from what I've heard. Yeah. So just can you give me briefly a really you mentioned the painting situation, but what about a positive story of a client where using your service really made a big difference?
Well, we've had several. I'd like to think we make a big difference to everybody if we move them. To be honest with you, Sylvia, I think you spoke
Oh
to
yeah.
Sylvia. Um, she had a grandfather clock, which we did a bit of investigation on. Turned out to be over 250 years old.
Mm.
Um, Now the reason we were investigating it is when it came into our warehouse in Spain, there were a few bits missing, and we were a bit concerned that, where have these gone? It turns out that Sylvia had them anyway because she was worried that we might mislay them. But one of our guys got looking at it, and there was uh, the face was cracked, the glass in the door. So we replaced the glass as standard, thinking that maybe that we did it. When we delivered, she was over the moon. We'd polished this clock, we'd replaced the glass. She couldn't believe it. Absolutely couldn't. So she ended up with a restored grandfather clock. So that's the sort of thing that we do. We do take care of things.
Yeah.
There's countless other stories about where we've rescued people where things have fallen apart with other movers at the last minute, and because we've got boots on the ground here in Spain and in the UK, we can organise moves quickly. Yeah, but I like to think we make a difference to people in everything we do.
And what about if someone hasn't got, for whatever reason, someone at the other end to receive the the goods when they arrive?
Okay. Well, I mean, we got the option to come into storage and hold them until that happens. By the same token, if there's a key holder, we're quite happy to go in and place the items wherever they need. We can do things by video call these days anyway, so it's not a problem. We've had instances where people have not been available in the UK when we've collected, and then they've not been available in Spain when when we've delivered, and we've managed to sort that out simply because we're in both camps.
Yeah, another advantage.
Yeah.
So, whizzing through some more information, top mistakes to avoid. I think you've touched on some of these already. Thinking that you can just drive a van across. We've talked about the related issues
Yeah.
that can occur. Using cheap boxes and not labeling correctly.
Okay. Well, this is always the key. We've moved people in, and they'll say to us as we're walking through the hallway, "What's that?" And we'll look round and go, "I don't know. This is a box you packed." Ah, okay. What's in it? I don't know. This is a box you packed. So if it's labeled on the outside, we know where it's going to go within the house. If somebody says kitchen, if we got kitchen crockery, it's going to go in the kitchen. So it saves an awful lot of time actually at the delivery. We need that information in some format to do the custom side of it. If people use cheap boxes, this is a pet hate of not just me but any removal man. Um, our boxes are triple walled, okay, and they're packed so they're full. They're not overpacked, but they're full. If you've got an underpacked box, it will crush.
Mm,
If you've got an
yes.
overpacked box, we probably can't lift it or it's not shut properly. You can't put anything on top of it. So make sure your boxes are packed properly. Make sure they're labeled properly as well. If they're labeled properly, we can find them, we can list them, and we can more importantly, we can deliver them to where they're meant to go. There's nothing worse than four removal men carrying boxes stuck at somebody's door, and the lady of the house is saying, "I'm not too sure if that's bedroom one, two, or three." Um, so label things properly.
And what about some people can also forget things to add to the inventory, especially if they're doing this video tour with you. I mean, things like maybe having a push bike or something.
Yeah,
What are the things that are typically forgotten?
yeah. Things do get forgotten. We have people forget they got things up in the loft.
Mm.
We have people forget that they've got a shed that they've been using for 20 years. We can change things at the last minute. That's not an issue. We'd rather not, but it's all about being prepared. And Liz, I think it gets back to what I was saying earlier. We can do things quickly. We can do things within 3 weeks. We prefer 3 months.
Yes.
It is about being prepared.
Okay, we're going to do some quick fire questions now. Well, you've said how long does the process take? You've kind of answered that, haven't you?
Yeah, I think if you work in 3 weekly cycles, so 3 weeks to collect, 3 weeks to get it into Spain, 3 weeks to deliver, we are certainly going to hit our deadlines within that.
Okay. Do you offer small or part load removals?
Yes, we do. Since Brexit, the smaller loads have become more expensive, but yeah, not everybody wants to bring the kitchen sink and everything else. Single items cause us a problem because of the custom side of things. So people will say, "Oh, I've got a push bike. Can you get it from Southampton to Alicante?" Yeah, we can do it, but there is a customs procedure to go through. So the cost of the customs may outweigh the cost of the transport.
Okay. Um, do I need to be present? Well, you've mentioned
No,
not
no, no,
necessarily.
no.
Okay. Do you collect deliver on weekends?
We can do. We prefer not to. There are reasons for it. It's the removal side of things in the UK always happens around a Friday and Saturday. So we try to avoid that. Most of our work can be done in the beginning of the week. We have no problems working weekends if we need to.
Okay. Can I store items longer than a month? Yes, you've said you
Yeah,
can.
3 months with you guys. You get completely free storage for 3 months and then 25% discount after that period.
Are there any items you can't move?
Uh, okay, coming from the UK into in one thing, it's since Brexit, we can't move alcohol.
All right.
There are not many people trying to smuggle wine into Spain. We can't move alcohol, we can't move plants, we can't move food, children, pets, the obvious bits and pieces.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, there are specialist pet transport companies, and that's what you'd put people onto or recommend. Well, people can find them themselves, but
It is, yeah. No, we would we have a list of people that we trust and would recommend. The problem is that since Brexit, you need to be DEFRA registered, and
yes.
unless you're really specialised in looking after dogs and cats, um, I wouldn't even attempt it. I'd much rather leave it to those that really know what they're doing with that.
Okay. What's the lead time to book? Well, again, you've perhaps said 3 weeks is possible.
3 weeks, 3 months, 3 months is fantastic for us.
Hmm. Okay.
I've taken a booking this morning where somebody wants to move in October. Um, that move in October will be seamless because we would have covered everything off by the time we've even got there. You know, so that will be that guy will have the most enjoyable experience of moving.
Don't jinx it. There might be some
I
weird
just
climate event in Spain or something that
Oh, not again, not again.
just to recap, the countries you've mentioned Spain, Portugal, France,
Hmm.
I think. Any other countries that you cover quite often?
Yeah, well, from here in Spain, we tend to ship stuff and ship people's belongings all over Europe. Um,
Right.
it's it's I mean, where our warehouse is in Palomares is obviously Spanish, but then there's a strong British community, Dutch community, Belgian, Norwegian, Swedish, German, and people come into us and they ask us to ship to all sorts of places.
Mm.
From the UK, we mainly we're based in Spain, so we tend to come down in Spain, run through France. We can do France with there. Portugal's a near neighbour of ours. But then again, we can go into Holland and Belgium. We do Malta, Cyprus, and Greece.
Great. And of course you do also help people with shipping their stuff back to the UK when they come back.
We do. We do the whole transfer of residency process with HMRC within our customs process as well, and that's important because people don't realise that there is a process. Because I'm British, I'm going to Britain. Yeah, but you've still got to go through the customs process, and it's an important process because that will include the transfer of residency will include things like your car. So if you take your car back, you've got to get it registered with DVLA. Um, to do that, you need to go through the customs process. Otherwise, you're going to be charged VAT at 20% in the UK on the value of your car. So
Okay.
it's important you go through these processes.
Yeah, and I presume before they go through that sort of video call with you, they should just have a really good sort out, declutter, get rid of anything because you're going to ask, do you really need something in your new life? Um,
One of the things I say a lot when I'm with you guys in the UK, and speaking to clients or potential clients, is be absolutely ruthless in what you bring across. There's no point in bringing the whole contents of the garden shed with you because you're only going to pay us to do that. Um, be ruthless in what you do. There's charities that can benefit from it. You've got family and friends, I'm sure, will benefit from unwanted bits and pieces. There's no point in bringing across pots of paints. And I mean, we had the last truck we unloaded, um, huge amounts of timber. And when I questioned the guy, he said, "Well, I was told that timber and wood is expensive in Spain." It is, but it's we've had to transport it and it's heavy.
yeah,
And that was taken into account with the quote.
brilliant. Well, lots of useful things there. But it's so if people are thinking of using your services, of course they can come and chat to you at one of our property exhibitions, of which the next is in September in Birmingham.
Mhm.
But if not, how do they go about? What's the next step?
Okay, so they can contact us easily through our website indalotransport.com. Uh, there's an inquiry form there for people to fill out if they want a quote, if they're that advanced. There's a contact form that they could just fill in. They can send us an email. They can WhatsApp us. They can ring us. We're very, very approachable. And my wife will testify that we're available 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that's probably a complete not. I mean, I know how professional you are from having spoken to a lot of people afterwards. So that's always a positive sign. And just to reiterate, it is really important to trust your all your possessions with a professional.
Absolutely. I mean, pe people tend to be, if you're going to move to Spain, I would say you would only do it once. Okay, but we're moving dozens of people per month.
Mm,
Okay, so we do have the experience, knowledge, and know-how of how to do it, and we also know how to rectify things when things go wrong.
mm,
You'd be amazed how many calls we get from UK movers that run into problems as they're crossing borders,
mm.
or they've broken down in Granada, or they're stuck in Barcelona. You know, have you got, can somebody help us speak to this person? Um,
Yes.
Having that knowledge here is invaluable.
Yeah, and also you've reminded me that the whole Brexit and the whole legal situation is slightly a constantly changing thing and thing laws or regulations
Yeah,
processes will change. So that's another
absolutely.
reason why it's so important, whether it's getting a visa or organizing your transport, that you actually talk to the experts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to abide by laws in the UK, in the EU, and specifically here in Spain. And we keep abreast of all of that, the transport regulations, the shipping regulations, the whole lot. We're not going to get caught out.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paul. That's been brilliant. I hope that's been useful for everyone else. It's
Yeah.
certainly been one of the most interesting things to talk about, actually. And so it's in indalotransport.com. Thank you, Paul. Anything to add?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing you again in NEC September.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody needs anything, get in touch. Indalotransport.com is the best place to start.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Liz. Bye.